The first writers in residence came to the James Merrill House 25 years ago, shortly after James Merrill's death in 1995. Since then, over 80 writers have visited, staying in his home, a National Historic Landmark, to work on projects of their own. Thanks to Merrill's generosity, the house now belongs to the Stonington Village Improvement Association and is an ongoing inspiration for writers and poets from around the world. For more information, visit our website, jamesmerrillhouse.org. Thank you.
Hello, I am Joanna Scott, a former Merrill House Fellow and a member of the James Merrill House Committee, and I will introduce Christopher Spaide, and Chris will introduce our current Merrill House Fellow, Adrienne Raphel. Christopher Spaide is a good friend of the James Merrill House, and he is currently the NEH Postdoctoral Fellow in Poetics at the Bill and Carol Fox Center for Humanistic Inquiry at Emory University. He received his PhD from the Department of English at Harvard University, and he was a junior fellow at the Harvard Society of Fellows. He writes on modern and contemporary poetry, as well as on music and comics, and is a poet himself, and he's been published widely in journals that include American Literary History, ELH, The Best American Poetry, the Boston Globe, the New Yorker, Plowshares Poetry, and Slate. He has received fellowships from the James Merrill House and the Keesby Foundation, and in 2023, he received the Robert B. Heilman Award for Reviewing from the Sewanee Review. Chris was a Merrill Fellow in 2022 and also taught our first James Merrill poetry class last year, and will hopefully be doing a second round online this spring, so stay tuned. Before we bring on Chris and Adrienne Raphel, I want to mention that Adrienne, who is an expert on crossword puzzles, will be doing an in-person workshop at 107 Water Street in Stonington on the art of the crossword, and it will be next Wednesday, the 17th at 5:30 p.m. And there are still a couple of seats available. So please visit our website for more details. Her books are for sale at Bank Square Books and at the James Merrill House Visitor Center, and also can be purchased online via our website. So welcome to everyone here, and let's now welcome Chris Spaide and Adrienne Raphel.
Hey, Joanna, thank you so much for that. It's so good to see you again. And it's such a pleasure to be back in the Merrill House, however, virtually. I am not the star of the show. The star of the show is waiting in the digital wings, so I will be as quick as I can. But it's very tempting to go on and on and on about my wonderful friend, Adrienne Raphel. It's not common that I know the exact day I've met someone, but I do know the exact day I met Adrienne. It was Wednesday, April 3rd, 2013. It's fact checkable that day. It was the day I came to Harvard as a visiting admitted student in the PhD program in English. And there was a funny get together with free pizza, so I had to go right outside of the office of my eventual advisor, Stephanie Burt. And standing and mingling around, I got to meet Adrienne, who is currently a first year grad student in English. And from the jump, I knew she was someone I wanted to be around. She was a scholar and a teacher, but she seemed to sacrifice nothing to be a great academic. She did not have to give up her extremely serious and honed gift for play and fun. She did not have to sacrifice her exquisite sense of style, whether personal or linguistic. She doesn't talk like anyone I know, and she knows more about talking and language than just about anyone. She knows more etymologies than anyone. I'm sure she could tell me the etymology of the word etymology. Just in short, she seemed like someone who could do anything. The issue with taking someone who could do anything as your model and hero and inspiration is you will never live up to them. So it's now been 11 years of following Adrienne and being wowed by what she can do. I guess another thing about someone who could do anything is you shouldn't be surprised when they keep doing amazing things. And by now I should stop being surprised. But Adrienne has gone on since in grad school and since to write remarkable essays for just any journal and website you can imagine, covering everything from poetry to American Girl dolls to the history of department stores to most recently the game Monopoly. She's published widely her poetry, first as in a chapbook about What Will We Do in 2016 that won the Seattle Review chapbook contest and was selected by Robin Schiff. Then her first collection, What Was It For?, came out in 2017 that won the Black Box Poetry Prize selected by Kathy Park Hong. She then published her first nonfiction book, Thinking Inside the Box, Adventures with Crosswords and the Puzzling People Who Can't Live Without Them. Boom, there it is in front of my face. We should just keep that up. I am one of the puzzling people who can't live without crosswords. And that book not only is a history of crosswords, but is kind of a history of American play and how it encompasses everything from disposable newspapers to modernist complexity. Most recently, she has published this remarkable book that I was able to snag from the Emory Library because my copy's who knows where. This is Our Dark Academia, 2022, came out from Rescue Press. Again, just a book that you think she can do everything and then she does yet one more thing. For more, we don't have time to cover everything else she's done, from essays to poems to fables to unclassifiable oddities. So I think we should just get to her. There's really only one thing in life I did before Adrienne, which is I showed up at the James Merrill House in the fall of 2022. And she visited me on the way back from Thanksgiving. And I could see it then already that she was someone who needed to end up there, not only as a remarkable poet and thinker and player, but as a huge fan of James Merrill. So that's it for me. From here on out, I'm just going to sit here and go like this and watch. I will ask questions of Adrienne. If you have questions for Adrienne, please drop them in the chat on whatever you're watching us on. And yeah, that's it for me. Adrienne, how are you doing?
Hey, Chris. That was an incredible introduction. Maybe you can just like intro me the whole time. We'll just have an intro that lasts. We were joking about this. We were doing our dress rehearsal. The intro could just last the length of the reading, and that would be great. But no, thank you. And it's incredibly kind. And also, I mean, it's also kind that you say you consider me a model because I consider you a model, and also quite literally a model.
Oh, yeah. This is kind of like a mirror into a mirror, what we're wearing right now.
Yeah, we're doing self-portrait in a convex mirror type. We're going full deep on the Marilliana.
Should we explain what this jacket is, or?
Yeah. You want to explain it?
Yes, we're both fond of a poem by James Merrill, a late poem called "Self-Portrait in Tyvek Windbreaker," in which he describes this jacket that sounds great. It's a jacket with a world map on it. The jacket is white with a world map is the first line, and it has the whole world on it. And the best thing about the jacket is it's real. And we both got copies on, I got mine on eBay. Where'd you get yours?
So this is a borrowed copy from our friend Tyler, we took several workshops with. And then I also have spent, I spent some of the first days of my Merrill workshop time and some of the initial dollars of the stipend, thank you, Merrill House, doing really important sartorial research, and have now obtained. You can find them. I found mine on eBay, but they're also available on Etsy and Poshmark and other sites of your choosing, and they run approximately like they're not like crazy expensive, and I love the theory that they only pass from poet to poet. Actually,
sure,
yeah, right,
yeah. I think Kurt Cobain wore it. When you look it up, unfortunately, it doesn't say where the jacket James Merrill wore. It says where the jacket Kurt Cobain wore. But he's a poet of a sort. And so just any of those websites, type in the code Raphel20 for 20% off.
Exactly.
Okay. Have we done enough marketing for them to talk? So I think we were going to start with you reading some earlier poems and prose and oddities, whatever you felt like. Then maybe we'll talk about them. I can voice whatever questions show up in the chat. have plenty of my own. And then maybe we'll talk about some newer stuff.
Yeah, I thought that I'd start off with some poems from that book that you brought up at the end, Our Dark Academia. It can float back in. Which seems really appropriate for this haunted space that I'm in right now, that we're all kind of virtually ghostly in together. And then we can chat, and then I thought I'd read a new poem that I wrote in this space, plus some prose that relates to the project that I'm working on while I'm here, which will also tie back to shopping.
Great. And I'll come back around. I'll make sure you stay on time. I put on all my watches. So if we're going over, we have many reminders. Okay. So yeah.
Self-portrait in a Timex.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So I'll start with the title poem from Our Dark Academia. In my ears, the girls are just learning they are witches, blowing out candles with their minds, fluttering lights, making cakey makeup melt off the jealous ones to moon-fed fleshy faces, pockmarked constellations. Our quartet, Brooke, Vivian, Louise, Sylvia, our dark academia, Artemis aesthetic, perfect skin. They're getting bitchier. They lean into it, burn the pillowcases with lacy cigarette butts. And when the prefect, this is British boarding fantasy, rotting vines, menstrual blood, challenges at lights out, they point as one to a sneak smoke by the matron doing laundry on a Sunday, which is the Lord's work. They all, of course, share a secret, which the rest of us would die to know, and so I sacrifice myself. Today, waiting, hands chapped, stomped feet at the reflecting pool, me tiptoeing to stare at their eyes in the water. I can hear them, but they can't me. I'm not real to them in the way that they're too real. In the way they step back, and it's not a reflecting pool, but a deer, round bloke eye rolling crazily out of its socket, in the way of everything, but don't touch it. All of them long dead in that first pandemic winter. So I make them live it again and again, and I put on their blazers and smooth my face into theirs. This past will overtake us because it already is. And this next poem I'm going to read is a poem. I wrote much of Our Dark Academia during kind of that deep first pandemic winter. I was alone, also in a top story apartment, not quite as nice as the Merrill apartment, but I was kind of my only human interaction was with various screens or various screens within screens, and some of my best friends were on my Peloton. So this is midnight calisthenics. Hi, what's up? It's Chrissy. I'm so glad you decided to spend this journey with me. I will make this totally easy. Just listen to me. Do everything I say to do, and this will be totally easy. I need you to feel supported. I need you to get enough grit underneath you. I need it to get gritty. It's cold this morning. I put on this half hoodie, which if you know me, you know I don't usually do. Have you ever tried a bath bomb? It totally made my morning. I love it when you make time for yourself. Oh my God, you have a dog too. That is so sweet. Hold it. That's great. If you incorporate this into your routine, that's great. Or if this is your only workout of the day, good for you for getting moving. Really good for you. If you don't have a dog, that's okay too. You're doing this for you. If you like this, check out more of me. I have a whole series of these on demand. Also, I have a book coming out. So great. I need you to hold on now. Hold it. Come on, you're on my toes. Come on now. 3, 2, 1. Oh, Okay, towel off, hydration station, love it. Do you? That's a milestone. You know those things, pumice stones? Oh my God, game changer. After this, you have to do a dry rub. You have to do a diffuser. You have to, oh, we're back in the interval. Push it, go, hold it. Okay, that's the way. Yes, you. You're looking great. Just move up a little, suck it in. Yes, it's going to get real results. It's getting real. Yes, you chose to carve out this moment for you. No one else gets this time. It's just for you. Hey, I'm Chrissy. Thanks for joining this journey with me. I'll see you all the time. Yeah, that poem has a lot of direct quotes in it. Not all from Peloton instructors, some from I got to know a lot of people on the screen, let's just say. This next poem is called Trebek number 5. And really the only thing you need to know about the poem, it has zero to do with the poem, but the only thing you really need to know is that my brother is an actual Jeopardy champion. That's where I get all my street cred from, this jacket and Ben's Jeopardy championship. Trebek number 5. What is among us? What is contact high? What is secondhand smoke? What is a Momofuku? Who is a Berenstein? What is East Berlin? What is Berlin, New Hampshire? What is Beetlejuice? What is a scab? What was the election of 1800? Is Mickey Mouse a dog or a cat? What is a Nickelodeon? What was a dime? What is a quarter tone? What is F flat? What is gluten? What is chaff? What is sunny delight? Who are sopranos? What is ivory? What is natural by nature? Who is Tennyson? What is the book of Job? What is job? What is KitchenAid? What is mother's little helper? What is the Mekong? Who is King Kong? Who is a mineral? What is not mine is mine. What is a mimeograph? What is a mom? Who among us has one? I wanted to read this next poem, Alphabet of Spies, which is a kind of compressed little origami abecedarian. So it's got all the letters of the alphabet in order, specifically in the Merrill House, specifically for The Changing Light at Sandover, his really incredible, enormous book that comprises the 40 or so years that Jimmy and David Jackson did the Ouija board right around the corner here. The first book of The Changing Land of Sandover is the Book of Ephraim, which is kind of an alphabet book in that every poem in that book starts with like the first poem starts with the letter A, then B, then C. And of course it makes sense, which one of my favorite objects in the house, the Ouija board mouse pad. Yeah, you can see the Ouija board mouse pad here. Really incredible. Alphabet of Spies. A is for the elephant. B is for the blood. C, I'm cold, put on a sweater. D is never done. E is real elephant. F, it is for fun. A is back and elegant. And G is here for gun. Hi, I am for hire. I for sure apply. J for sure I am this job. K and L I lied. M, it is monopoly. O, and then who died. P and Q have spoiled you. R, let's take a ride. Simon says the parents, these ones up for grabs. Understand what we have told you, very, very grand. Grandma's feeling excellent. Don't tell her that she's done. Anything you're raising to, the zeroth powers 1. And to close off the readings from the our Dark Academia and Princess poetry readings, I'm going to read part of, or about half of, a longer poem called Corona. And Corona is a crown of sonnets, which basically means that each sonnet is 14 lines long, right? So the last line of the sonnet then becomes the first line of the next sonnet. I play around with that formula, and you'll see it kind of garbles itself. It kind of eats itself sometimes, and they twist around. So yeah, Corona, A Crown of Sonnets. I'm not going to read the whole crown. I'll read about half the crown, and then Chris and I will chat a bit. So here we go. Corona. Oh, brave new world that has no people in it. The things I've bought myself online today, a box of tea and cans of low sodium soup, a bag of coffee beans. Did I buy 2? So much gum, it won't let me add more quantities. But what if the day comes when gum is gone? A box of printer paper and some ink, a box of pens and notebooks, a jar of raw manuka honey, wetter spoon, because I read somewhere that that's the one. It's never been a better time to fly. Lift your spirits, says Frontier Air. On Instagram, we're all in Mexico and something, and the kids are getting drunk. The undergrad's already drunk, thank God, or getting there, or please, why don't they start? 3 6-foot bros are walking not 6 feet apart. When I get nosebleeds, it's bad, like when a girl gets her period, but way more blood. This is the kind of thing they tell each other now. I don't know what I'm doing, but I have more Jack Daniels than I know what to do with. I don't know where I'm going because Denmark has closed the schools, the non-essential hospitals and libraries. I don't have anywhere to put my stuff. I guess I can go home, but I don't have a room. I'm making lemons out of lemonade. We Zoom. And manically, I try to launch this book, and manically, I try to launch my book. What else do people have to do but stay inside and read and read and read and do the crossword? So say I. Although, from me, I haven't read a book in weeks and cannot do the crossword now for shit. And manically, I start to launch a book the week before the real COVID hit. I don't know what to do except to be as manic as it is possible to be, and then be more. I keep on keeping be. I write my pieces, write on crosswords, write them. I plan events for future time. I'm on and uttering. I plan events for future time and on and uttering, so chirpy with the present and blinkers on for me. We go ahead and plan the interviews, all radio and sterile room and phone and box. It's always been this way. The launch events were really just for me. The real stuff, they tell me, is the media. Wee! At first, for days, I had myself to blame. What did I do? What did I do? I was the cause of this. It is my fault. I am a little snot. The ending then is still, it is my great and utter karmic fault the book comes out in this, the literal end of days, but not the end of literature, or so they say, though who is they? Do not let me ask. Hotline for all forthcoming FAQs. Hotline is hold music FAQs. Should I still go to Mexico? Is it okay for me to take a walk? When can I buy more toilet paper? When will they run out of Amy's lentil? There is no more Purell in Vermont. Should I still take the train to Brooklyn? Am I allowed to drive to get the laundry? When will it be not safe at the sky? When will the lights go out in Princeton? When will my orchids start again? When will there be no more free 2-day prime? When will I be allowed to pop this zit? Is that a gas leak I'm smelling in my car? I'm gaslighting myself, but with my mania. If I keep moving forward, I will move. I'm out the house more now under quarantine than I was before because I shouldn't leave. I eat less and less, but buy more food. I run, still go to bar, and then run home and shower and dress as though I have a place to be, and sync in my phone, though not in that order. I've got a million ways to go, but only exactly one place to be. I cannot stay, although that's true every time I leave. I'm clinging to my office. The thing is, it's not even my car. It's grandma's car, and no, she hasn't died. We'll all die except the kids, or so they say. It seems that nature always has a way. I've clung to student conferences, but cannot feel that these will be the first to go. First students, then the lights. In conferences, I'm editing an op-ed on the sly and straight in front of their faces. It is the end of days, and the only thing left in the world for me to do is hurl out this book with all my energy and all my might. My mother was 31 when she had me, to keep myself from sliding from the light, to keep myself within my frame of sight. Thank you. Thanks.
I'll be the applause for everyone. Adrienne, that was so great. And it's so fascinating to hear these poems again and to be reminded by you and by the poems themselves that they came out of like a certain time, a certain moment and headspace and everything. So I guess the first thing that came to mind is, what is it like to revisit poems written in the early days of COVID now? I mean, some things haven't changed. We're still in a world of screens, you and me. But yeah, what is it like to go back to them?
It's very vertiginous sometimes. I think that it was very strange when this book came out and I was able to do in-person readings for it, because the crossword book came out on March 17th, 2020, which like my agent said to me, she's like, there were books that came out on September 11th, 2001, because that was a Tuesday. And there are books that came out March 17th, 2020. And it was this thing where I've talked to other authors whose books came out that day or very around that time. And it was this really weird thing of that book was such an anchor for me at that time, because it was like, I don't know anything else happening in the world. I don't know who I am. What is this? What are we as bodies? But here I produced a physical object. And so hurling that book out on screens was really, I mean, it was traumatic to have, it was kind of like that there, but it was also really anchoring. And then to have this book that was about pandemic time come out in a time when I could actually interact in real life about it was another kind of like flip. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was like reversing or reinscribing trauma. But it was very strange to be reading about a year or so ago, to be reading poems from the really isolated time into a world so, I think, forever affected by pandemic, but in a real space. The poems that I just read now are ones that I have happened to read out loud multiple times, like since then, and in multiple different kinds of spaces, both online and like I just read a couple of these this week online. And that was a forced online by weather too. It's like we're still living in this world. But I read some of them online. I've read them in person. And I find that for this book, I kind of have like my like set list of poems that like I know kind of how they sound and feel to read in settings, in kind of any setting now. It kind of just feels like I'm reading these poems that weren't even written. I don't know who they were written by. They were written by some other person. They just kind of exist. And like, because I kind of know how I read them, it feels kind of comfortable. The thing that feels really uncomfortable, and that I maybe will push myself to do at some point, but is actually very like deeply kind of it's very deeply painful to do, is to read poems out loud from the book that I'm not accustomed to giving in readings, like that are not in like, reading set list. Like there's poems in there that I've really never read out loud to an audience, or really never even read out loud to myself since they were published. And that feels like a little bit like ghostly, haunted, strange. I don't know what it would feel like to put those poems back in my body.
Oh, that's fascinating. Well, I mean, two things come to mind. One is that the poems you read today, and they really work as performances. I was laughing. You couldn't hear over the Zoom, but I was laughing and responding to them. But it does seem like one ingredient of a lot of them is, I guess, the opposite of performance, is being at home alone with your Peloton, of being like watching Jeopardy online and just that's kind of your like linguistic information, not another person. So it is funny that these poems that they work, they land, they also seem born out of a kind of solitude. But then it sounds like you're saying that there's another set of poems that was born out of solitude, and maybe that those poems have to stay in that solitary mode. They're not for performance.
I think a lot of these, well, a lot of these poems were written, they or the first drafts of them occurred as part of this poem a day project that my friend, the poet Sarah Denizakant, and I were doing. This like it was Sarah's idea that she had done this recently with the poet Hala Ali, and it's really like this like telephone linking thing where but she was like, okay, here's the rule. You have like a Google Doc, and for an entire month we both have to write a poem every day into the Google Doc, and the poem might be like, I brushed my teeth, good for me. Like, what a day. It can be whatever, but you have to write something in there. And then we started getting these like comments going that weren't at all edits on the poems, and they weren't really even suggestions. They first started as like riffs. It was like I would like make a joke or something, and then Sarah would like joke about that, or she'd be like, oh haha, you use the word like orange, and like, you know, I don't know, smells, my oranges all smell weird, like something just like really dumb, you know. Or like, but then we would both go back and forth. Like I remember noticing like that she had a lot of poems in this doc that were like semi-sonnet-ish. They were like, I was like, this poem is like 13 lines and this one's 15 lines, and like, are you noticing that all of your poems are in the gravitational force field of a sonnet without ever being 14 lines? And then she was like, have you noticed that you're using like 25 sort of female coded names in the poems, that they just kind of float around and go ways? And so I think the effect of writing poems that were both deeply from a very isolated place, but also in the most direct way to an audience from the get-go. It was like writing to an audience made them incredibly like have a voice and a purpose beyond the like, you know, cacophony of things going on in my head. So like, and then like the comment about like I could notice all the patterns of the sonnets in Sarah's poems. Actually, the book that she kind of produced from this, almost all of them are in like oblique sonnets. Like you wouldn't know that they're sonnets, but then like Hyperphantasia, her book, like there's so many sonnet-y things. And then I think that's why like in that poem Our Dark Academia, I think that's why like the four names that are in there, I like play around with names a lot. I sort of have a paper doll section of the book that plays around with names and stuff. So yeah, I think the combination of writing in isolation and writing directly to an audience might like play with, that might make them voicier.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In the poems we just read, you said you kind of don't know who wrote some of these poems.
Yeah.
But are there moments where you kind of remember at what point in the Google Doc this line entered, or your friend and collaborator Sarah, when she kind of snuck in? Or is it kind of all, I don't know, now is it all blurry?
There's one moment, actually it's not in a poem that I read, but there's actually two crowns of sonnets in the book Corona and Corona 2. And in the Corona 2, there's a line in there about how like sparkly is the line is, my nose is sparkly, very clean. Sparkly is a very COVID feeling. And that is from a text from Sarah when I texted her that this was actually like, this was after the Google Doc we'd done our month of Google Doc, and we'd ignored everything else that we were supposed to do in that month. And so then like we both had to catch up on grading, you know?
Yeah.
And then a couple months later I got COVID and wrote to Sarah. I was like, this I luckily had like a mild enough case of it and had been vaccinated and it was all that, but I wrote to her, my nose feels very sparkly, before I knew that I had COVID, and she wrote back and was like, sparkly is a very COVID feeling.
That's such a good line, and it's funny in context, it sounds like a comforting thing for a friend to say. Almost like abstract, you take the words out, it has that Robert Frost sentence sound of comforting someone. Like, oh, don't worry, sparkly is a comforting feeling. Or whatever it was, I can't even remember.
It's very true. It has as a sentence sound of comfort, even though it's incredibly eerie in content.
Yeah, It is so funny. I mean, maybe just you being in the Merrill House right now brings this to mind. But there's all these like theories about where poetry comes from the muses to inspiration to Jack Spicer talking to aliens. And it seems like getting a text from a friend is actually like a very literal, friendly, normal way of the muses like interrupting your life and giving you some information. I mean, it sounds like Sarah's kind of like she did you a solid. She's one of your muses and gave you a great line.
Yeah, I just totally wholesale like copy pasted from the text.
Yeah,
But yeah.
it works. So you've been working on some things there. Maybe even before you read that, it is interesting, or I don't know, you talking about how you wrote those poems. It kind of reminds me of something like a writer's retreat. You're in an environment that's a little strange, that's unfamiliar, that maybe blocks you off from certain kinds of social life and communication, but introduces other forms of it. Are you someone that likes kind of experimenting with the conditions of writing a poem? Do you set things like this up for yourself often?
I think that's a great question. I feel like it's part of what I really love about being on residency here, especially, but just like the kind of concept of residencies in general. I think that I'm someone who like and having something kind of externally set up for me that kicks me out of like whatever else life is going on, or just like kicks me out of routine, and then makes me able to set up incredibly arbitrary and incredibly strict routines for myself is like great and necessary. And yeah, I wish I were one of those writers who, and I know some of them, and I'm really jealous of the way that they describe, like, oh yes, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning and I drink hot water with lemon and I like write for like 4 perfect hours every day. And then I'm just like, oh great, cool. Like
that makes less sense to me than divine inspiration.
I don't that just makes me angry, or I'm just like, now you're just showing off.
Yeah. It is funny the way you described being in a residency, or I guess being at the Merrill House right now. It almost used like the words arbitrary and constraining. It sounded like the way someone would talk about poetic form, like a sonnet or a sestina or a sonnet crown being arbitrary and constraining. Is that a similar way that you think about constraints and rules on your writing?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. and like I think arbitrary constraint. I mean, and I feel like this is something that I've learned from like your writing, your poetry too, is like ways to kind of how do you kind of play with making the most constraints in order to be the most free in some ways? Like,
it is funny. Yeah, I think some people have an idea that to write in a certain form limits what you, or it kind of, I don't know, narrows what the poem could be.
yeah.
But it maybe, in my case, or I've found, and maybe you feel similarly, it kind of swats away easy ideas. First thoughts kind of, it turns out the first thought doesn't fit the rules, so we have to go for the 83rd thought. I don't know. Yeah.
Or like it makes you kind of like able to have, or like put in order your 83 thoughts. If you have 83 thoughts, and like, okay, well, which one is actually the like one that is going to chime with the next one? It's also, I think it's a hack to divine inspiration, because
I'll take that.
right? Because it's like, okay, I don't really know, but the form is going to tell me. So great.
Yeah. Or maybe the form tells me one thing and my gut tells me another.
Yeah.
And the internet anagram generator tells me these other things.
So many things. Yeah.
So we have a question in the chat. What has it been like living and working in Meryl's home? You've mentioned it a bit. Maybe if you have some thoughts about that, I'd love to hear it. But maybe we also can hear some of the things you've been working on recently.
Yeah, and I think this also leads into, this is also vulnerable for me because I haven't actually read this poem to anybody before, but exclusive. But it goes along with this. So I think I've had one of the more, I think I'm at a Merrill House in a sort of unusual time. I'm really grateful that I was able to be here in this particular chunk of like January stretch. I think that like typically Merrill Fellows just come at different months of the year than this. And I think also I'm one of the, like, and I'm sure people are going to leap in and be like, oh no, Merrill's like, I was also here on New Year's Eve, but I'm not sure how many other Merrill Fellows have been here at New Year's Eve. And that was one of my first nights here. And I decided that, I needed to kind of just commune with the ghosts. I didn't feel alone on New Year's Eve at all. It was very, it's a very full house of ghosts. It was just me being in my human way here. And so I also, I borrowed this windbreaker from a friend for the month. I'd done my homework, researched, found the other Tyvek windbreaker, and also I do want
Oh yes, should we say the poem with this jacket? It mentions yet another jacket. Exhibit A.
Exhibit A. So the really amazing thing about self-portrait in a Tyvek in Tyvek windbreaker, Tyvek TM windbreaker, is that it's after Ashbury's self-portrait in a convex mirror. I think that's fair to say, right?
Another long, late 20th century poem.
Yeah, another long, late 20th century poem that kind of involves an amazing sequence of images. And then, it's after this poem in a convex mirror, so it's after a mirror poem. And then beautifully at the end of Self-Portrait in Tyvek Windbreaker, he finds the mirror windbreaker to his white with a world map with France in orange over the heart, which is really beautiful. Then he sees someone wearing the mirror windbreaker to his, which is this cool black zodiac constellation windbreaker.
Yeah, this one, it doesn't come across as marvelously over Zoom. It is an amazing jacket. So it's the night sky with zodiacs, and there's a glow in the dark Milky Way. Is that what it is?
I think so. Yeah, because so this jacket, its name is Where in the World. Wherein?
Yes, WEARIN apostrophe the world.
Yeah, so it's Where in the World. This is going to be important formally for us in this poem that I wrote. So
yes, this is all relevant. This isn't just our QVC audition.
Although shopping is also relevant always, guys. And mom and dad, if you're listening, I promise these jackets are actually not that expensive online, crucially. So Where in the World, and then this jacket is Glow in the Galaxy, GLOWIN apostrophe THE GALAXY. So I was trying to figure out, I was like, okay, well, I need a good form. I need a form that is also going to make sense for this mirror image of the Tyvek windbreaker that's mirroring Merrill's windbreaker, and then plus the Galaxy windbreaker that is mirroring the Tyvek, the Galaxy that is mirroring the world. And I was like, this is all, I wanted to up the meta stakes enough, and so what I did to construct a little formal puzzle for myself is that the poem that I'm about to read, it's an acrostic. So the first stanza, the lines going down, it's Where in the World is the acrostic. And then I did it in reverse, the next stanza. So Where in the World reads up that way. Because I wanted to hear it. And then Glow in the Galaxy is the third stanza. And then the fourth stanza is, Yixal G et the new Glow in the Galaxy. Backwards.
Perfect.
So
can I ask you 2 questions before you read it?
Yeah.
One, that is so fantastically elaborate and has never been done before in the history of writing poetry. I assume it won't again. But
Yeah.
to me, this seems like something you could come up with in a split second. I mean, do these kind of formal ideas arrive to you that quickly? Does it take, I assume it took longer to explain it than to come up with it. Is that true?
That is true. It takes
Yeah.
longer to explain it than to come up with it. I'll also say that I was living with self-portrait in Tyvek Windbreaker for a few days. Like my first few days in the house, I was like reading that poem a bunch and thinking about it a lot. I'd been thinking about it before, because I knew I was gonna have this jacket in the house, and I also just knew that the book I'm working on here is about it's about shopping, it's about department stores, it's about clothing, and it's also about identity theft, and kind of about like a parasitic relationship where there are these two people, and they who are the center of the book, and they kind of like shift and swap or one kind of consumes the other's. They shift and swapped identities, and so I was thinking a lot about kind of also this like, and also the book is set in the early 2000s, which is a little after this Tyvek Windbreaker, but like not dissimilar vibes. And I was just also thinking about writing about clothes and seeing through clothes. So it's
it all makes sense.
Yeah. So I've had
like,
it on the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes no sense. So yeah, so like I think I had the like ideas on the brain for a while. Definitely came up with the form way quicker than it takes to describe it, because it's actually like it's not that it's weird.
Yeah.
But maybe also way slower, but just like I'd rattled the poem, I'd rattled the Meryl around in my head a bunch. I was like, I want to write a riff on it. I don't know how to do that. Well, I got to come up with some bonkers form to do that.
And bam, it arrived. Okay, I think we should hear it.
It's also like, I mean, who knows? It needs some editing. So, all right. So this is self-portrait in 2 Tyvek TM Windbreakers for Jim. Wow, said the baby when she saw the scooter. Even before it was out of the box, she knew it to be hers. A 2-car house this year, cozy coupe too. Yellow roof, red chassis, little tykes. You know the one. It's not white Xmas officially, not without an inch of snow. The other baby, there's 2 of them. He's Johnny jumping. He's been jouncing 8 days straight. No one has slept in wonder weeks. He could go on. Of course, he won't. According to the phone, it's almost Red Week time. What is that? A problem for later. Should I freeze my eggs too? Dozens of thousands of dollars in futures I don't use. Damned if I don't want to go down sinning. Lie, lady, lay away. Reader, I bought everything. Once upon a time, it was the end of the world time, which, if you knew me then, you know I'd burned through effort. I lit a candle once for luck in his cup. In this year of our Lord of unstable 35, I'm stranger to nothing. The first rule I've been able to break. Illusory success. Illicit Will-O-Ware, Royal Spode. Meet the Princess of Pentacles, Adrienne, in this Adamless Eve. Where? Connecticut. Who else but Baby New Year's? Me? We might as well begin. God, I haven't even confessed. 3 jackets, less than 1 week, living in 2 apartments. Low, I online shopped, set shipping. Here, where'd it go when Wes, who takes care, found one inside, but not inside either, or it being next door? How could I return this absurdly expensive, luckiest jacket in the world? Half boy, suede green, it's bomb. I'm a cheater. Easy when it's on credit. Rob Paul, pay Peter. Goodbyes, then goodbye. Anything's affordable at the end of the world. Look what I found. Glow in the Galaxy, a rare John copped on Etsy. Then its twin, where in the world? Xmas, B-Day, whatever, I bought the lot as is. Y/N, big why. Years go by. I grinded my sleep. X-ray if you'd like. The radio won't hurt you. Actually, a gift. I mean, I didn't pay for it. Luck can't be bought. Isn't that a rule? Ashtray for a single universe. A candle. Gum turtles all the way down. Extra credit. Believe anything. Things I did here. Turn tarot the wrong way. Thrones of water. I can do it all. No one's watching. Never grow up queen. In lieu of having one, I'll have so many weeks. I'll keep myself in the perpetual off season, even though there are 72 seasons. Let's buy a new one every time. Wear the world. Great. I love decisions.
That's awesome. I have the poem in front of me, so I was able to read it along with you, and I just couldn't believe it. There are some parts that feel so improvisatory and in the moment, and others that if I had a million years, I couldn't plan coincidences and decisions this good. The fact that at the precise midpoint of the poem, you say, "We might as well begin." I don't know how you do it.
Oh, thank you for that. That poem, that line, I didn't write that in the actually. Thank you for like. I mean, and also this is like there were several. I also like there were several like stanzas or half stanzas of this where I kind of messed up. I like was trying to do the acrostic and real. I'm wondering like if you do too. Like, I mean, I guess like I had the acrostic in front of me and I was like writing out the lines, and then I realized sometimes like, especially with the backwards ones, the backwards stanzas. That's why like we might as well begin. I was really pleased when it landed in the midpoint of the poem, but I actually wrote that stanza and the other the backward stanzas, I wrote them in reverse. Like I wrote that stanza. The draft of it starts with like, I wrote it as "Where in the World," and then I flipped it. And this is also, it's probably like one of pieces of advice from Jory Graham, this poet who studied with an incredible poet. She's got books around here somewhere. Where like sometimes she'll take a poem that you've written and then she like reads it up backwards and it sounds so much better. And I was like, oh, I'm messing up doing these like backwards acrostics anyway. What if I write it forwards and then flip it and read it up backwards and see what happens?
It seems very you, Adrienne, that your account of that line, it both involves messing up and accidents and then also just years of poetic wisdom. Coinciding.
That's my vibe, like messing up and a lot of school.
Yeah. Well, so we have maybe only 7 or 8 minutes left. If anyone has any questions for the chat, please drop them in. I'd love to keep talking about this poem, but you also alluded to this very tantalizing project you're working on while you're there. So it sounds like they have a lot in common. So talking about either one will lead into the other. But yeah. Would you like to talk about what you're working on?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'm working on this novel, which is also like a new challenge for me, having never written a novel, and who knows if I can do it. But you know, so I'll just say I'm working on a book that is like a very long poem. It's like a book length poem. That's a novel. It's about. It's my log line for it is The Talented Mr. Ripley, but between two women and set in department stores. So essentially it's a story of this this one woman who's sort of in a situation that I know nothing about. She's in the first couple of years of a grad school program, and she is feeling as though, what is she even doing with her life? And also it's summer, she needs to make money, and it turns out she needs to make some money for various reasons, but
don't we all
yeah. So
everyone except for James Merrill.
Yeah. her last name is not Merrill.
Okay.
But so she goes to work in her family. Like she's got some family who have a department store in Atlantic City, and this is loosely based on my family. my grandparents and my great aunt and great uncle had a department store, like a pedestrian mall in Atlantic City, New Jersey, for probably like it's roughly congruous to the time that James Merrill spent at Water Street. Like they started it around when my dad was born, which I won't say the exact year. And then they ended it really sadly for my wardrobe, like when I was a baby, which is really sad. I have really great like baby clothes, you know. The store kind of fell the way of many American storefronts. It, fell to malls and also just like small cities dying.
Mm-hmm.
But it had a great run of it. And in the sort of alternate universe of the book, I kind of questioned like what would have happened if Gordon's Alley, the store, had, which I have a different name in the book. What would have happened if it had kind of clung on and just kept decaying in the middle of Atlantic City until like, I don't know, or the early 2000s. And so like our main character is working in this kind of sad, decaying department store. And the glamorous client comes in and starts shopping there, and they're about the same age. And the main character, our protagonist, is totally like smitten, and she's just like, oh my God, who is this glamorous client? How can I be this person? How can I like, attract this person? What is going on here? Like, she's just like riveted by this, and like, who is this glamorous person coming through Atlantic City? Like, what is happening here? And our glamorous person is, of course, like kind of has some scammer vibes to her, but whatever. And she's like, actually, I'm going to Paris and I will pay your way, come with me. I just want to like take a trip to Paris to go shopping at the world's best department stores, not at this like junky ass Atlantic City department store. And our character says, sure, great, fine, wonderful, love it. You're paying for my plane ticket. Turns out, of course, that our scammer has other ideas. She's like making her take out a lot of cash. She's making her buy all this stuff there. They go into this like spirally hole, and but they go to Paris and kind of like wander around in the department stores of Paris, and then a bunch of things ensue from there. And so I'm kind of really enjoying kind of working on what is it like to kind of be in a plot-driven world, and what's it like to be in a like identity theft kind of place, and what's it like to be thinking through ideas of consumption and beauty and ambition and power and late stage capitalism. So that's what I'm working on here.
It sounds so good. It sounds new. I mean, even though it's based on some biographical and familial truth, it sounds very new for you. I mean, it sounds working in fiction, working with plot, working with doubled characters instead of doubled mirrored stanzas. So what is it like doing that kind of new writing in this new once in a lifetime place?
I've had the realization that I've had the couple weeks I've been here so far is maybe the most basic realization in the world, but it's felt like really I was magical. I'm like, wait, this is fiction, so I can actually like make up stuff and also give myself new rules and set new rules. So I've basically taken everything around me that's like, oh, poetry and form and constraint and setting up all of these like arbitrary worlds and rules, and wait, I can do that in fiction too. So like, for example, I did a lot of research on department stores in Paris. Like I was researching them this summer, and by research I do mean wandering around in department stores. It was a really nice.
It was the best possible strategy.
It was the best possible, and like whatever happens with this book, I'm very grateful that I was able to to the American Library in Paris.
They can't take that away from you.
Can't take that away. So this fall, when I was kind of working on drafts of material from that like research that I'd done this summer and I was being really faithful to particular department stores. I was like, okay, like Bon Marché, I will like be really faithful to everything in the Bon Marché, and then like this particular other department store or whatever. And then here I'm realizing, wait, I can actually like wait, I can make up details, and I can not only make up details, I can fuse together different details from different stores. So for example, like I was like, oh, there's this kind of concept store that starts being really popular in the early 2000s. That's like not it's like a sort of modern-y department. It's like a department store, but it fuses together, like they'd start doing like these collaborations. There's like the one in Paris that was really famous. It's called Colette, which like it was this store called Colette. And so I like started writing about Colette. And then I was like, wait, I can actually like fuse together like things that Colette did with things that this other store Merci did. And I can also like fuse them with like other shit that's out there in the world too. And I can like put them all in the same store and tie them together too. So I think a big realization that I've had while being here is that fiction can be fiction.
Yeah. Oh, and I feel like we've gone full circle, because I feel like this is a great example of you being confined to one place and yet finding a strange freedom and distance from what you're thinking about, what you're working on, while being, I don't know, trapped in a room on New Year's Eve.
I need poetic form in order to like be free.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, well, I could talk to you all night, but I think we have hit the hour mark, so we should call it quits here. But it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Let's stay in touch.
I'll be twins. Yeah. Chris, thank you so much for doing this. Truly, like when they were like, will you give a reading and who would be your dream interlocutor? I was like, well, there's only one.
Only one person dressed the part.
No, thank you. This has been great.
Okay, sounds good. Bye, Meryl fans.
Bye, Meryl fans.
So, hi. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Bergen. It is lovely to see the James Merrill hidden study of 107 behind you. It's very nostalgic.
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks so much. So this is my new book. It's called The Math Campers.
My own novel. It's called These Women.
It looks like this.
Well, the first thing I'll say is all the dreams are actual dreams. There's nothing worse than a fabricated dream. You can always tell.
I normally don't write in first person because of the fact that as soon as you have a narrator, you tend to have somebody listening, or there's an implied audience.
I just got to soak up in the atmosphere in that house. You just feel like a writer, and you feel like you're part of this tradition and a community, and it feels like the work is important.
Magical things happen when you're looking at Meryl's books.
Well, it was a really, really transformative residency for me. It might sound like a bit of an overstatement, but it really wasn't.
Meryl's really distinct imagination was present in every detail.
Thanks, Brendan. Bye. Enjoy Stonington on my behalf.